Welcome back to the Manor. Julian McBain here, and today we are hunting Kerbs, and we're going to discuss another excerpt from the 10x rule. And this one comes from the chapter Average is a Failing Formula. And the reason I've selected this is because it really kind of encapsulates what I've been trying to pin down for the last couple of weeks about, taking massive action, trying to keep ramping up over the course of time, and why ramping up is so important to success. And I think it's really well encapsulated in this excerpt. Quote, "Average doesn't work in any area of life. Anything you give only average amounts of attention to will start to subside and eventually cease to exist." Unquote. Think about that for a moment. Anything you give only average amounts of attention to will eventually cease to exist. That's a pretty strong statement. And the reason it's correct is because of entropy. Things decay over time. And I've talked about this a lot. It's part of the Pareto principle. It's part of all of these things that I've discussed in my McBain moments. But what it comes down to is when you put average effort into something, you get average results. And there's no incentive for you to keep going. It's just a grind for no reason. You spin your wheels, you get nowhere. I've been doing this for 2 years. Ish. No, yeah, 2 years. My second anniversary was just a couple days ago. I pump out 7 videos a week, plus 2 live streams, plus written content on my website. I currently have 394 subscribers. I would not be where I am today if I was not constantly putting out more content. I don't think I'd be anywhere close. And I still have a long way to go. Now, here's the thing. The amount of effort you put into something will eventually bleed into your other activities. Well, what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is, if you're putting 10x levels, and I'm deliberately using the term 10x levels. If you're putting 10x levels of effort into a hobby, you're going to get used to operating at that level of activity. And so when you go to your 9 to 5, suddenly you're operating at a higher level. It may not be at that same level you have in your hobby, but it's going to be higher than what you were doing before. And I've actually begun to notice that in my own job, where, I've put all this energy into building my channel. And over time, it started to affect how I do my regular job. And I don't mean negatively impact, I mean positively. And I've only really started deliberately ramping up even more. And I have been ramping up over time. But I ramped up this. I started doing the live streams. I started producing the written content again. And now, beginning of this year, I was averaging about 22 to 23 sales units per month. This past month I did 32. 31. I think it was 31. It might have been 32, but I think it was 31. Because I ramped up my effort. I ramped up my energy. I wouldn't have the energy to do that if I hadn't gained the energy by doing this. So you see, putting that level of effort is something you have to get used to doing. And you do that by doing it in one aspect of your life. And then you see the positive results of it, and then your brain goes, oh, what if I put that same effort into this other aspect of my life, my job? And you start seeing positive results there. You start putting that effort into your relationships. You start seeing positive results there. Into raising your kids, positive results. It's a positive feedback loop. Feedback loops are really how we live life. We get the dopamine reward for achieving something which causes us to want to go forward and achieve another thing. That's a positive feedback loop. And a negative feedback loop is exactly the opposite. We fail at something, things start to sink, we start to lose faith, we slow down, and it feeds back on itself. So what you need to do is you need to create these wins for yourself. Alex Becker calls this getting ones. You know, because your brain's a binary system. It's a computer. You know, you've got all these neurons and they're either on or off. They're firing or they're not firing, 0 or 1. And every time you get a win, video games are famous for this. Every time you get a win, your brain gets a 1. The brain wants those ones. It wants those successes. In most games, getting success is relatively easy. Competitive games like, say, Call of Duty or War Robots or other PvP and Fallout, it's much harder because you're competing against other people. You know, you've got to be able to ramp up and play at their level to get those ones. But if you're playing PvE, getting those ones is a mere matter of technique and numbers. And computers are not exactly the most creative when it comes to strategy. At least not from a general sense. They do make computers that can. Those computers are terrifying because you know what you get when you have a computer that knows how to strategize in combat? You get mobile dolls. That's a Gundam reference. Go look it up. I'm making a lot of sci-fi references lately. I made one on Twitter the other day about Battletech. Apparently, it's the Rise of the Trueborns is coming. I'm not going to get into that. But tangents. Your brain wants to win. This is how David Ramsey ends up having his system to get through debt is so damn successful. Because he targets the easy win. And then you go after the next easiest win. Then you go after the next easiest win. You keep generating those ones, those dopamine shots. It's gamifying your life. Well, you can do that in real life too. You know, you ramp up the thing that you really want to do. And maybe that thing you really like doing doesn't give you any money, but you ramp up on it. And you begin to get used to operating at that level. Well, now when you're operating at a reduced level at your job, it doesn't feel right. Your body's like, I should be moving more. I should be doing more. I should be thinking harder. I should be producing more. And so you ramp up that. Oh, cool. More health. And as you scale, your whole life gets better. You start operating at that higher level. You know, it's Dan Locke in his TEDx talk said, you know, if you're used to working at 70 degrees, that's your average, right? 70 degrees. And suddenly, you turn it up in one part of your life where it's 72. You got two choices. First choice is, wow, this is too much. This is too high. I'm not a 72 degree person. I'm a 70 degree person. And you come back down to 70 degrees and then you don't go anywhere. The other is you feel the temperature at 72 and you're like, ooh, I like this 72 degrees. But I only get 72 degrees in this one aspect of my life. But I want 72 degrees all the time. And so you crank it up. You crank it up when you're in those other aspects of your life. And then that becomes your average. So what do you do then? You go, well, if 72 is good, but maybe I want 75. And so you go, okay, crank it up on that thing that you really like doing. Yeah, this is beginning to feel really good. But I keep dropping back to 72. So you're faced with the choice. Do you drop back down to 72? Or do you add fuel to the fire so that you're always at 75? Keep adding fuel to the furnace of your productivity, the furnace of your inner soul that will get you where you want to go. You know, Grant, I don't think it was in that particular chapter, but no, there's a whole chapter dedicated to it. He says, burn the place down. You keep adding fuel to that fire, you keep adding fuel to that furnace until either you've got a bonfire going, or you've got that generator producing constantly at just at high power, or until you burn your goddamn house down. Because it's better to fail having putting in maximum effort than to fail having put in none. And that doesn't mean you don't have to be responsible with things. A lot of people hear this and they're like, oh, I should be, you know, go for broke, all in. And there is a certain level where you need to be all in, right? You do need to be all in your efforts. But that doesn't mean you don't hedge. You don't plan, you don't prepare. That doesn't mean you're not responsible. You don't have to be frivolous or stupid with it, right? You still want to be all in. But you still need to be responsible with your actions. So, as you're doing it, you need to plan ahead. You need to decide, okay, this is what I need to do to get to location X. If I'm going to get to location X, I need to do A, B, C, D, and E. If I do those in 6 months, then I'll be able to look at getting to location Y. But wait, if I ramp up my efforts, can I get to location X in 4 months instead of 6? Maybe in 3 months. Well, that'll get you to Y a hell of a lot faster, won't it? And realistically, the distance between X and Y isn't months, it's probably years. But if you put enough energy into it, can you make it months? Or at least reduce it to a year? Possibly. That's entirely in your court. As they say, the ball is entirely in your court. What are you willing to do? What are you willing to sacrifice, especially in time, to get where it is you want to go? You know, there's the old saying that 10% added effort yields 40% increased results. That's not a lot of extra effort. Now imagine if you're putting 50% extra effort in. And there's going to be diminishing returns. You know, we got to be a bit realistic. There will be diminishing returns. Instead of, if 10 is 40, then 20 is probably 70. And then 30 is probably 90. But for 50%, you're probably getting 100% extra results. That's twice the results for only half again the extra effort. Now imagine that over time. You know, the average person works 40 hours a week. Actually, they only work 37 and a half. But for the sake of argument, we'll call it 40. Half again that many hours worth of work is 60 hours worth of work. And I'm not saying it all has to be at your 9 to 5. It can be a side hustle. It can be something like this, where I'm doing content creation. It can be any other side thing. If you're putting those extra 28 hours in every week, and you're smart with what you earn out of it, how much more results do you think you're going to get out of it? You know, it used to be that you could do time and a half. You could work 60 hours a week, and the last 20 was time and a half. And you get this ridiculously much larger paycheck, which is that's basically how the baby boomers got their massive retirements. I mean, they're not huge, but they're a lot better than than what the millennial generation's facing. And it's because they were able to put in that extra effort at a single company. Well, we don't have that luxury anymore. That was kind of a bubble of its own. It was a one-generation rodeo. But that doesn't mean we don't have the ability to create more opportunity for ourselves. Opportunity is not given, it is created. It is absolutely created. Success is created, it is not given. It is not a scarce resource. Effort is not scarce, it is created. You generate it by adding fuel to the furnace that is your soul and putting the effort forth to go toward whatever goal you have set for yourself. But you get back what you put into it. and you get it back over the long term. Now think of it this way. You know, as I said earlier, I've been doing this about 2 years. I've got, last I checked, 780 videos. And I'm not ready to monetize yet, which is fine. And I know not all of my videos will be monetizable. I have to curtail my language a little bit better. I'm getting better at it. But, you know, everything I do is rated. I'm going to take a page out of Rusty DeWeese, who's a Vermont comedian. I'm going to take a page out of his book. All my stuff is rated SC. Some cussin'. And I recognize that. I got to get better at that for when monetization does come. But I've got 780 videos. If I monetize all of them, and that would take time and effort and energy and stuff like that, which is fine. You know, given that only a certain number of videos are going to be watched, yada, 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 people go back and watch my old content. Those are going to provide returns for efforts put in a year ago, 2 years ago. Was it worth it? Absolutely. Because they will be there until the day I die. They will be there generating revenue until the day I die. Or until YouTube decides to dump my channel. Whichever comes first. And so that's why I put all this effort forth. You know, it's not about what you make after you hit the threshold. There's always a threshold. There's always a threshold of effort. There's a threshold of results you have to get in order to achieve success. Contrary to popular belief, the success does not only get counted from the efforts you put in after you hit the threshold. All of the stuff you did before you hit the threshold will have a return associated with it. What that return is depends on a lot, actually. It depends on what you're doing. It depends on what industry you're in or what you're looking to do with it. But all of them have a return. There's always a return on time invested. The question is your return on time invested good enough for what effort you put in? Is it satisfactory for the success that you're aiming to create for yourself? And sometimes you got to go back and revisit the previous efforts and see what you can need to, you know, maybe you need to alter something or change something, tweak a little bit. You know, I've had to go back and alter tags and stuff. I have a whole ream of videos I have no tags on. At some point, I'm going to have to go back and correct that. I'm dead serious. Like, I spent months. I didn't put a single tag on videos. Never bothered. And that's partially responsible for why I only have 394 subscribers. Because I stopped putting the effort forth. Eventually, I'm going to have to go back and thumbnail all of these videos that I never thumbnailed. It's true. I have a whole bunch of videos I never put a thumbnail on. That's why it took me so long. Thumbnails make a difference. It's the little efforts. It doesn't take much to make a thumbnail either. You know, all of my thumbnails I make in Paint. And yes, I do have GIMP. I know that's something I need to put the effort forth. Again, effort to learn. And I know that sometimes I don't put as much effort forth as I should. But these little things make a difference. May not seem like it, but it does. And it's all dependent on whether you want to reach out and get the things that you should have. You know, do you want to put the effort forth and earn your best destiny? What is your best destiny? What is it you want out of life? Look at yourself in the mirror, stare into your own eyes, and say, what do you want out of life? Is it a spouse and 3 kids? Is it a house? A white picket fence? Is it a mortgage? Is it to be debt-free? Is it a university degree? Is it a castle? Is it $1 million? Is it a jalopy or a rolls? Is it a pickup truck that you can roll through 2-foot deep mud and not have to worry about getting stuck? Sorry, I had to throw that in there. That's the kind of place that I live in. Is it security? Is it freedom? Is it a stable job? Is it a retirement? You know? All of these things are legit, even the jalopy. You know, I'm personally not big into jalopies, but I've driven them. For those of you who are too young to know what a jalopy is now what you would call a junker car. You know, something you pick up on the side of the road for like $500 and don't expect it to last more than 6 months. That's a jalopy. Whatever success looks like to you, you have to reach out and take it. And the thing that most people fail at is they don't think big enough. When I first started my YouTube channel, I thought it'd be really cool to get to like 1,000 subs so I can monetize. I thought, well, no, I don't want just 1,000 because you can lose subs, and if I get dropped below the threshold, I'll lose monetization. So maybe 2,000 subs. That would be adequate, right? It would give me just a little bit of supplementary income. I'd continue making videos, have a little fun. You know, do it once or twice a week. But that's average. I didn't think big enough when I started. And then I thought about it. And I was reading or listening to the audiobooks of, and I've read several of these in print, but it's particularly Think and Grow Rich. But the 10X rule really hammered it home. I wasn't thinking big enough. So it was like, 10X your goal. Okay, 20,000 subs. No. And I thought about it, I'm like, how many subscribers does YouTube have? 1.3 billion. $1.3 billion with a B. And I thought if I can capture just 1% of that, I'll be in the top 1% of YouTubers, I guarantee. I'm probably exaggerating. It's probably the top 5%. Just 1% of YouTube's accounts subscribed. And I'm willing to bet that puts me in the top 5% because PewDiePie is the biggest YouTuber on the planet. And I don't even think he has 100 million subs. I think he's at 99. I'll have to double check that. In fact, give me just a second. We'll check it right now. This doesn't take long. He has 105 million. So he did break 100 million. Good for him. The top YouTuber on the planet has 105 million subscribers out of 1.3 billion. So I said, screw it. I want 1%. 13 million subscribers, and that's the road we're on. And it's going to come one subscription at a time. But I'm going to make it. Could take me my whole life. I don't care. If I watch it tick above 13 million with my dying breath, I have achieved my goal. And that's the attitude you have to have. I am going to achieve my goal if it takes my dying breath to get there. And you have to pursue that goal single-mindedly until you achieve what it is you want to achieve. And then, no, that doesn't mean you neglect the other aspects of your life. That would be stupid. You know, you can't achieve your goals if you don't take care of your health. You can't achieve your goals if you neglect your family. Then what's the point of achieving the goal? But that doesn't mean you don't have the single-minded determination to go after the goal. And don't ever accept second rate. Never accept good enough. Only the best is good enough. Nil satis nisi optimum. That is what gets you where you want to go. And you know, I would be a lot closer there today if I had not accepted second rate for the first 10 years of my adult life. Honest to God. I would not have the debt I have today. I would not be in the position I am today if I had not accepted second rate between 20 and 30. Well, between 18 and 28, technically speaking. I wasn't really dedicated to the higher level stuff until I hit 30 and I started really building a career. Because when you stop accepting second rate, that's when you start to really look at things. That's when you start to really think about what you want out of life. And you start to review everything. You review your relationships, you review your circumstances, you review your job, your hobbies, the people you hang out with. You know? If you show me your friends, I'll show you your future. But that doesn't mean you have to abandon your relationships, your friendships in order to succeed. Because one of two things will happen as you get more successful. And this is something to be very careful of. The first thing that can happen is that they're going to leave. They'll decide that they no longer want to be affiliated with you. You're too much for them. And they're going to say things like, you think you're better than us, don't you? I've had it happen to me. Lost a girlfriend over it. Not my most recent one. I do want to put that out there. But I did. And no, that wasn't the reason at all. It was because I had a goal. My goal was to reach a certain point, and I didn't have a way of articulating it at that time. And you know what? Maybe things would have been different if I could have articulated it. But honestly, it doesn't matter. All of those things happen for a reason. And I know that's cliche, but that's not the point. But the first option is that they're going to move on. Or you're going to decide you have to move on. Because they're going to try to bring you down. The other option is they start to see what you're doing and they try to emulate you. And they climb with you. May not be as fast, or it might be faster. But if you and your friends can instigate each other into building your lives bigger, then you all succeed. You all win. That's the good stuff. And if the opposite happens, you know what? Wish them well. And move on. Never ever sacrifice your success because of the whims of another. But on that same token, you got to put the effort forth. Is that his hair? Oh, okay, that is his hair. Interesting style. So, That's all I got. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Please like, share, and subscribe down below. We are on the road to 13 million subscribers, one subscription at a time, so make sure you subscribe. Seriously, that button down there with the subscribe, or in the corner, that has my heraldry in it, which is the wolf on the background called Ermine. Click it. Click subscribe. If you're not subscribed, why aren't you subscribed? Hit subscribe. Guys, I really appreciate all your support. We'll see you in the next one.